I'm often reminded of the story of Damocles from mythology. He was a fellow who had a sword suspended over his head by a single strand of human hair. That's kind of what you feel like. The story starts in September of 1986 when I went into my office on a Saturday morning. I would usually go in about 5:30 and work until 8:30 and then go home and be with the family. I noticed the usual kinds of things that you would see: a stack of mail, memos from my staff, and the ubiquitous stack of pink phone messages. As I went through the phone messages, I noticed one from my wife. I'd called her the day before on the car phone. Another one from a client. I'd called him. And then there was a message from a doctor with whose name I was not familiar, the doctor who ran the local blood bank. And the message said that I should call this doctor at his home on Saturday morning. When I called him, he went right to the point. He told me that the blood that I had given at the church blood drive Wednesday night was contaminated with the virus that causes AIDS. I was devastated.
I got a phone call early in the morning at my work, and it was my mom, and she said that my cousin was missing. Later on that afternoon, I got a call that one of the boys in her class had beaten her to death with a baseball bat and threw her in the river, and that they had found her dead that day.
The doctor suggested I come to his house that morning and have blood drawn for a second test. I did that. Within a week, the results were back, and they proved that I was HIV positive. Then my wife was tested. Within a week, her results came back. She, too, was HIV positive. Our initial reaction when we were told that we were HIV positive was devastation and fear. Now, here we were in 1986 being told we had a disease that was associated with gays and with IV drug users, and that wasn't our lifestyle as Bible-believing Christians. How do you react when someone tells you that not only you're going to die, but your wife's going to die? Of course, a little later on, we learned that our daughter, who was born in 1984, is also HIV positive. And I can honestly tell you, I'm still trying to work through that one.
Melinda and I were real close. We like to do a lot of the same things. I like to spend time with her because she's easy to talk to. We always like to just be together and talk and have fun and joke around. And she was really, really special to me. The event was terrible. It was a tragedy. Number one, Melinda lived in a town of 500 people. And so murders don't happen there every day. Very rarely. I think there was a murder there once in 1949. To know Melinda was to know somebody who loved you with all of her heart, no matter who you were.
When my daughter was 14, my oldest daughter, who's now 17, she figured out that something was wrong with her parents. The mom and the dad seemed to fight a little more than usual. They would take long car rides and talk. They would go into their bedroom and close the door, and there seemed to be some kind of intense discussion going on. She noticed that her mom was getting a lot of blood tests. So one day she asked her mom, "Mom, do you have AIDS?" And her mother told her the whole story. Her mother told her how we'd been infected by a blood transfusion. Her mother told her that her father was infected, her sister was infected. And my beautiful 14-year-old daughter cried and cried. She cried herself to sleep for months after that. She couldn't believe that two of the people she loved most were going to die. My son took it even harder. We told him when he was 14. He's a very empathetic young man. He hurts when people hurt. He couldn't believe that his parents were going to die. His world was falling apart. You know, when someone tells you they have this disease, or when someone actually dies from it, you go through stages. You go through denial. You go through anger. You go through depression. You come to some kind of a level of acceptance. Teenage boys have a problem with anger anyway, and my son's no different. He got so mad. His world was falling apart. Two of the people that he loved most were going to die. He wasn't mad at God. He wasn't mad at his parents. He was just mad. Why did this have to happen to his family? He got so depressed that one night he took a loaded gun, put it to his head, pulled the trigger. The safety was on. And I believe God gave him a thought at that time. And that thought was, "Jared, I'm not finished with you yet." So he put the gun down. He's handling a little better now. He still has times when he's terribly depressed. You see, AIDS has come home to him. and it's a horrible reality. I can honestly tell you that telling my 9-year-old daughter that she was HIV infected, because we only learned when she was 9 that she was infected, was the hardest thing I've ever had to do as a man and as a father. How do you tell someone who's 9 years old that they probably won't live to see 20? In the Bible, Job is presented as someone who had to go through a lot of suffering. But it's very interesting how it's presented. In Job chapter 1, there's this meeting in heaven. And Satan has been walking around the earth looking for mischief to get into, and he hasn't found any. So he comes before the presence of God. And God says to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there's none like him in the earth, an upright man?"
When I got the call, my first initial reaction was, this happens on TV. This doesn't happen to our family. I don't know why I ever thought that it wouldn't happen, but I think the reason why it was such a shock for us is knowing the town that she lived in, of being 500 people, things just don't happen like this.
And God says to Satan that he can test Job.
When we went back to her funeral, I kept asking myself, why? If there's a God, why could something like this happen to her and to our family, especially when seeing her mom and dad, how upset they were. And I think at that time, that's when I started wondering, is there a God?
So in round 1, Job loses all of his material goods, his sheep, his oxen, his goats, his servants, his money. And in the end of round 1, he loses all 10 of his children when a building falls on them. Job says, God gave, God takes away, God is to be blessed. And he doesn't curse God.
I think initially, when things like this happen, you can't help but wonder why God is punishing you or your family. But now looking back on the situation, God wasn't punishing us. Something good will come out of this.
In round 2, Satan is allowed to test Job physically. He touches his body. He inflicts him with boils from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. All Job can do is sit in an ash heap and scrape himself with a piece of a broken pot. And then you have 30-some chapters in which Job's so-called friends accuse him of having some kind of sin in his life, that God has done this because there's been some kind of a hidden sin that Job hasn't confessed, and Job maintains his integrity through all of this.
And about 3 months after this event had happened, somebody had broke into my house, and I was asleep in my room, and my dog started barking, so I got up, and when I came to the bedroom door, this guy was in my face, and he started to beat me up, and he punched me. I ran towards the kitchen, forgetting that I had a phone in the bedroom, and I ran to the kitchen for the phone. He tripped me. He continued to beat on me. Then he threw me up against the wall and cracked the wall. And then he threw me up against another wall and put a hole in it too. And I think through that event, I couldn't figure out why this had to happen.
In the end, he's vindicated when God says that Job did not sin through all of his trials.
I think that the bad things in our life help us to grow, and they help us to be a better person. They help us to understand other people. I think that this situation has helped me to minister to people more than ever before, just because of the growth that it's given me.
You see, when you go through all the book of Job, at the end, God doesn't ever tell Job why he did what he did. He just says, I'm God. Sometimes I work that way. I always love you. I always care for you. I'm doing things for your good. I'm working out my plan in the earth. But this is the way I do things sometimes.
myself sitting behind my door in a room with a piece of glass, nothing running through my head, and all I remember is the slice of my wrists and the blood gushing out. And I was thinking, why? Why do I have to take all the pain?
I think abuse happens in families that are very controlling, that need to have some kind of control over everyone in the family. There is one person, perhaps in that family, who needs to have, for whatever reason, maybe their own insecurities, they need to have 100% control of everyone in that family.
Going to a person and admitting that you're afraid of going home because of something they're going to say is the toughest thing to do. And when you do find that person and they understand, you feel this relief.
It was just like a part of yourself that you couldn't let out, that was always kind of buried or hidden, and you needed to get it out.
The big secret, that's what it is the big secret. You're really tired of keeping the big secret. Don't tell, because then it'll ruin their lives.
Yeah, and you kind of get to the point where you're like, their lives.
Yeah,
You
no
gotta deal
kidding.
with your
What about
own.
ours? What about our own? Yeah.
You have this whole
Hate to
other
pretend.
act that's, oh, I'm all happy, and then
Yeah.
you're not really.
Like, it suffocates you.
I think violence is also condoned in families because I think many parents see that they own their children and that they can do with their children whatever they want to do with them. And it's nobody's right to tell them any differently.
She just caused me so much pain, as it's hard when you're a kid and you have all these questions about life and what you're going to be and how is it going to turn out, and if I'm going to have kids, am I going to turn out like my mom and tell my kids they're a loser? You know, it's really hard because they have no right to do that to you. They have no right, because you're a person.
You have a lot of hatred,
Oh, wow.
and you get really depressed, and I don't know. I always was depressed.
Yeah, you can't go back.
You can't go back. The perpetrators break down your self-confidence so much that you have none in yourself or anybody else. You lose a lot of the trust.
At times I might just do real mean stuff to myself. Might try to break my ankle or try to do something that will make me go to the hospital. It just kind of makes you feel that you need attention, so you need to hurt yourself.
I have scars all over myself.
I could see it bleeding, but I never felt it.
I mean, this is stuff that's never going to go away, and I did it to myself.
The emotional pain it drags on and it's always there. But if you physically hurt yourself, it's more real to me. It brings me back to reality that this hurts, but I don't feel it because I'm so used to pain. I got used to it.
These kids are so angry at adults and have so little trust in adults that their defiance of authority figures goes way beyond what you would expect from a typical teenager.
It took a toll. I saved it up, and it took its toll, and I landed going after my father with a butcher knife. Not knowing what I was doing, not on drugs, not on anything, just so much anger built up and so much pain that it happened.
I think it's a control thing.
Yeah.
I think just like we're trying to get control of ourselves by doing all this stuff to ourselves, they're trying to get control of other people and of themselves in a way. I mean, you don't know whether to just give in or whether to fight back, because I still feel like I'm fighting against him and it's not happening anymore. It sucks. And I'm telling you that flat out. It's awful.
You're gonna have a lot of anger and a lot of helplessness for a long time.
But see, I don't get it because, I mean, many of the times these people have a lot of kids and stuff, and it's like a cycle that they don't stop, and they don't figure out that something's wrong with them, and they keep hurting people.
Why is it the victims that are being punished? I don't understand that.
And even if you go to court, I mean, the jury's already has a biased opinion, and taking non-educated people into a courtroom about something that they need to be educated about, and it makes it really difficult on the victim, because then what do you do? This crime is so heinous.
No one will believe it. They push it away.
Yeah, you can't believe something that horrible. Someone would do something that horrible.
Kids will say to me, I'll say, well, what did you think your dad was thinking about when he did this thing? Well, I don't know, but he was really angry, and he was really powerful. You know, they see their perpetrator as more powerful than they probably are.
I thought, gosh, man, I guess I am a loser because of this. And you're not. It's just, don't take it. You can't take it. It destroys your life.
However many people, there's 10 of us in this room. I mean, we're not the only 10 people in the whole world that this has happened to. And
I'm slowly getting over that I'm starting to realize that it's not my fault what happened. It was his fault. You know, he caused that and all the effects of it. Not just what he did to me, but he hurt the whole family, not just me.
You deserve to get better, and it's really important. It's really important to tell. For a while when you tell, I'll be honest with you, for a while when you tell, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to. It is because you've got the only thing that you hear. You have a lot of people backing you, but you don't see it.
And you can take back the control, because as long as you keep it inside and you don't tell anybody,
and you're frightened,
they're controlling it.
And so you'll just give in, because that's what you're used to doing, is just giving in to anything that anyone says.
And you never really control yourself.
You'll see it. You'll lose. You'll lose a lot at first, but you'll get it all back. But you'll get it back with respect.
Don't be afraid to admit that there's a problem, because there are people out there to help you, and they will help you. Just don't carry that pain and don't carry that burden with you, because it will take its toll on you. You're young, you have your whole life ahead of you, you're strong, you're brave because of what you go through. Just always carry that with you. You're strong, you're young, and you're brave. And it's not your fault.
I think it is a real process of education, and I've always believed that what's going to change people's hearts and minds is the one-on-one, as they get to know gays and lesbians as individuals. No one has convinced me, through all that I've read, through anything in the Bible, from all the hellfire and brimstone sermons that I've heard, that God condemns that and that there is anything wrong with that. In fact, I think there's really something very beautiful about it.
I began to feel like I was singled out. It's like, well, how come Joe and Cindy can go and have sex before marriage and nobody says anything to them, but because I'm struggling homosexually, I have to change and I have to stop sinning?
As a gay person, I have more to be afraid of from the straight society, and especially from the religious right, than they have to be afraid of me as a gay person. I'm not trying to shake the foundations. I am not trying to change their faith beliefs. I'm not trying to change anything other than the fact that realize that I, who I am capable of loving God and of living a good life.
What does a homosexual look like? You know, can you tell? Sure, sometimes you can. But in our work, we've received calls and letters from pastors' wives who say, you know, I had a best friend and I found myself in bed with her. You can't always tell what a homosexual looks like. They're everywhere. I had no sense of remorse, no sense of guilt. I was totally into it. I had totally given myself to the person that I was with, and I totally loved her, and had no sense of it being wrong. One fleeting second, maybe, of it being wrong, and then my conscience was gone, and that was my life.
Sex is what determines sexuality, but within homosexuality or heterosexuality, sex is a minor part of relationships. And relationships is what makes people and what draws them to homosexuality. It is not about who I always used to say it's not about who I slept with, it was who I was in love with.
For me, it was an emotional thing, but the sexual activity was also part of it, and it also, once you've stirred that up within you, even heterosexual-wise, once you've stirred that up, then it's something that you want to seek again because it was pleasurable.
I have no problem with my homosexuality and my Christianity. In fact, it upsets me when I hear people say that you can't be gay and Christian. God and Jesus never said that. Jesus never actually said anything at all about homosexuality, but he did say an awful lot about tolerance and hope and compassion and love.
When I left homosexuality 10 years ago, I thought that I was going straight to hell. If I died, I felt I was going straight to hell.
You know, the people that Jesus seemed to condemn a lot more was not people who were involved in sexual sins, but people who were involved in moral arrogance, who thought they knew what the law was and that they knew what the mind of God was.
I want nothing to separate me from Jesus Christ. And I don't know the answer if homosexuals are going straight to hell. I don't know that answer. But by the Word of God, it tells me that it's a sin, so that's why I should change.
A lot of people will say, well, homosexuality is wrong. Why is it wrong? Well, because God says, or it says so in the Bible. And you ask them, well, where specifically does it say? And probably at least half the time the response that you'll get is, well, I don't really know, except I know that it's there.
When you look at the 1 Corinthians passage that mentions sort of a category, a list of sins, a list of people that you won't find in heaven, then you're going to find that homosexuality is there.
Don't buy into the lie. You were not created that way. God created man and woman. He did not create Adam and Steve. He created Adam and Eve. It is not his design and it is not his intent for humanity to be homosexual.
I think in terms of anyone, to know that God, as you understand God, loves you and created you as you are. You do not have to change. You do not have to be anything different.
I know that there are people out there that say that they have changed, or the phrase that they usually use is that they've left the homosexual lifestyle. If, in fact, that has truly happened, I would question whether that person really, truly is gay or was gay to begin with.
You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be different. You can be normal. You can become the man or woman that God created you to be.
I've heard other gay people say, gee, if I could take a pill and change tomorrow, I would. I would not. I see no reason to change. I believe that my sexuality is a gift from God.
Don't be afraid to get help. Don't be afraid to look to your youth pastor or your pastor or your friends, and don't discount the understanding and caring of your mom and dad, and then those of us who are coming out of homosexuality.
The people in the world are saying that you're born that way, that you're just gay and you can't do anything about it, and that's just how you are and who you are. And that's a lie. You can change.
All parents, you know, have a primary role in life, and that is to be good parents and be active in their children's lives. There are a lot of good parents out there who are all very, very supportive and very caring and really want to see good things happen for their children.
I think that I am definitely the strongest advocate of my daughter. It started from when she was little, and I could tell that she had talent. My husband didn't believe me. I said, you know, just watch me. She does.
From like an early age, I just always wanted to be like the best, and like in high school I wanted to be like the valedictorian, or I wanted to go to Princeton. It's just, I just naturally set those goals for myself.
As a parent, I guess I do have high expectations for my daughter, but I always try to let her know that if she doesn't come up to what I think that's not important, what I think is really important is that she tries.
Well, I guess sometimes her expectations are kind of high, I guess, and me trying to live up to those, and sometimes they aren't, they're kind of low.
Now, in the sense of helping her practice, all kids, I think, hate to practice at times. Practicing, I will push her some to practice. That goes for schoolwork, too. You know, be honored for that. Normal things like that. You know, parents have to do some of that because kids don't always want to do what they're supposed to do in terms of their work.
Sometimes I do feel that she does push me into things that I don't really want to do and things that I don't feel are important or have any significance later on in life. It's just sometimes I guess she just pushes me and I don't think I should be pushed into it because I have strong opinions on certain things and I just don't want to do them.
Leah is 12. She kind of has the point where she thinks she knows it all. So sometimes parents just have to do things for their kids' own good until they are mature enough to handle it themselves. So sometimes Leah's going to be told she should try something and we're going to expect her to try it.
Sometimes I think she's a little too pushy.
The ones that are definitely achievers are, and the ones that are underachievers are floating through life thinking that they're going to party all the way. And so in that respect, there's a lot of kids that aren't being pushed enough or encouraged enough or supported enough. You can tell the children that are worked with from their parents.
I think that at our house, you can expect us to be involved just about every single moment. We're always doing special things for Christopher. We help him with team sayings that he puts on lockers each week. We encourage him every day and make sure that he has the right meals, keep him on his toes, and keep him active in school. And we think that by keeping him active in school, that we also keep him active academically, and that way he enjoys it more and we enjoy him more.
I totally agree. My parents are probably the most supportive people that you'll ever meet, and they're just, I mean, you know, they make signs for me every week, or like just after my game tonight, they'll probably have some signs up that says, nice touchdown pass. When after all my games and stuff, no matter really what time it is, I'll come home, I'll cut the tape off my ankles, and then my dad and I will just review the game tape of what we just went through and, I mean, pick out the positive things that I did right, and then all the things that I didn't do right, learn how to improve on them and stuff, and just, I don't know, it's just, it helps me feel better about the way I played.
I think I do it to let him know how much I value him, you know, as my son, and I want to support him in whatever he does. I mean, there are times, I think, when Chris feels a little down because maybe the game didn't go as well as he had hoped it would. I let him know that there are good things that he does, and there are little successes that always seem to make a difference in life, and we always try to find those little successes. Well, I think that it's always been a family effort in our family, and I'm sure that I have a lot to thank my parents for because they did a lot of the same things that I'm doing for Chris and supporting him in school and supporting him on the playing field, and I think that's made a big difference.
You got to recognize the positive things, and that's what my parents, I mean, they're real good at that, you know, and they always take, when something negative happens, they always try to make positive out of it.
It's been a lot of fun doing it together, and we really enjoy working with both of our boys and loving and caring for them. I think that's what being a parent is all about.
Or like if the school calls or something, and then she just complains, no, why weren't you at school? Why weren't you in class? No, and And then I would tell her, why I wasn't in, like if I went to go see the counselor or something, and then she does not believe me. I lie too much. I lie about not everything. Not everything, every other thing. well, some of it, some of it I lie about just, I don't know.
I didn't used to be ambitious. I did okay in school. But when I got out of school and was raising Aaron, I realized that I needed more skills to get ahead, to be able to provide for my kids.
Do you expect me to get a B average after you're used to making D's and F's?
That's because you don't
in 1 year?
yourself. You don't study.
In 1 semester? Are you kidding? But I could try,
Well, that's just it. You're afraid of trying stuff.
No, I'm not. I'm trying right now.
Well,
what are my grades? I know I have C's at least, but
I'll find out next week.
I'm not gonna be home.
Between school and her social activities, we've run into a lot of problems, or she's doing the exact opposite of what of what I want her to do. She wants a lot of things, and I push her to work for them instead of just giving them to her, which I know a lot of parents do.
I do. Well, my dad.
Your dad pays for things.
Everything. I am so spoiled by them.
Yeah. And I want her to learn that if nothing in life is free, she has to work for it, period.
I will push my kids to succeed so they don't end up being losers and bums and be in jail or anything like that.